Most people don't realize this, but the way you handle money today, it didn't start when you got your first paycheck. It started way back, when you were 5, maybe even younger. Let's be real. Most of us grew up in homes where money wasn't talked about openly. Or worse, it was talked about only when things were bad. Bills overdue, credit cards maxed out, a parent slamming the table saying, "We can't afford that." And in that moment, even as a kid, something inside you shifted. You might have been sitting on the floor playing with toys while your parents whispered in the kitchen about how they were going to make rent. Or maybe you heard them argue loud enough for the neighbors to hear. And even though no one said it to you directly, your brain started connecting money with fear, tension, shame. Here's the thing no one tells you. Your money habits aren't just about math. They're about memories, emotional blueprints. Every time your dad got stressed when the mortgage bill came in, every time your mom looked guilty after spending on herself, those moments got stored deep. Not in your wallet, but in your nervous system. You ever wonder why you feel guilty treating yourself, even when you've worked hard for it? Or why saving feels like punishment, not empowerment? That's not about logic. That's about emotional conditioning. Let me introduce you to a term most people never hear: money trauma. Sounds intense, right? But it's real. And it doesn't always come from something big like homelessness or bankruptcy. Sometimes it's subtle, like growing up hearing, "Money doesn't grow on trees," or "Rich people are greedy." You internalize that. You carry it with you. Imagine this. A little kid watches his parents constantly stressed about money. He decides, without even realizing it, if money causes this much pain, maybe I don't want it. Fast forward 25 years, he's under-earning, undercharging, or sabotaging his finances. Not because he's lazy, but because he's programmed to avoid pain. And to his nervous system, money equals pain. That kid could be you. That kid could be almost anyone. And look, this isn't about blaming your parents. They did the best they could with what they knew. But the patterns they lived by, they got passed down. Not just through advice, but through energy, through emotion, through silence. Because silence around money is a form of education too. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you believe you deserve. And if deep down, you learned that money is stressful, shameful, or even dangerous, you'll subconsciously push it away. So here's your first wake-up call. If you're struggling with money today, it might not be because you're bad with finances. It might be because your financial story started long before you knew how to read a bank statement. Being broke is temporary. Staying broke is a mindset. Look, if you grew up hearing things like, "We're broke," or "We don't have money for that," you probably still feel it, even if your bank account says otherwise. That feeling doesn't just disappear because your income went up. It lingers. It shows up in the way you second-guess every purchase. It whispers in your ear when you finally start getting ahead, telling you it's all gonna come crashing down. And you know what? That's not just you being bad with money. That's emotional conditioning. That's survival mode on autopilot. Most people think money beliefs are formed in adulthood, but the truth is, they're passed down like family recipes. Some families pass down traditions, others pass down trauma. And money trauma is one of the most invisible kinds. You don't see it, but it drives everything. You might have grown up watching your mom skip meals so you could eat. Or your dad, working 2 jobs and still barely scraping by. As a kid, that becomes your definition of normal. You learn that money equals exhaustion, or that asking for more is selfish. Even when no one says those words out loud, the energy teaches you. And here's what makes this even trickier. When you're a child, you don't have context. You don't know that other families handle money differently. So, you internalize the struggle as your fault. You assume, we don't have money because something's wrong with us. That quiet shame, it grows with you. You start believing you have to hustle twice as hard just to break even. You believe that wanting more makes you greedy, or that you're not the kind of person who's meant to be wealthy. You want to build wealth, right? But deep down, do you really believe you deserve it? It's wild. So many adults are walking around with six-figure incomes but still feel like the scared kid in the grocery store hearing, "Put that back, we can't afford it." That kid never left. That memory, it shaped the way you save, spend, and even how you price your own time. You might feel guilty investing in yourself, or anxious every time you open your banking app. You might even avoid looking at your money entirely, not because you're careless, but because it triggers something older than logic. We gotta stop pretending that mindset and money are separate. They're not. Your relationship with money is emotional first, practical second. And if you grew up in scarcity, your nervous system got used to it. Safety started feeling like struggle. And now, even when opportunity knocks, your inner wiring resists it because ease feels unfamiliar. Success feels suspicious. Peace feels like a setup. This is deep stuff, and it deserves compassion, not judgment. So if you've ever wondered why you sabotage financial progress, why you never feel safe no matter how much you earn, maybe it's not about the numbers. Maybe it's about what those numbers represent to the kid you used to be. Money isn't just math, it's memory. And the sooner we face that, the sooner we can heal. Here's the mindset shift you didn't know you needed. Money isn't evil, it's a tool, and you deserve to use it well. But let's break this down, because knowing that intellectually is one thing, feeling it is something else entirely. You probably grew up hearing all kinds of mixed messages. Don't talk about money. Be grateful for what you have. Rich people are greedy, and over time those ideas got tangled up in your identity. So now, anytime you think about wanting more freedom, more options, more peace, that inner voice kicks in and says, "That's not for you." But what if that voice is just a program you inherited, not the truth? Let's say you grew up in a house where bills were paid but barely. You watched your parents stretch every dollar, make sacrifices, live in constant worry. They weren't wrong. They were surviving. But what they never told you, maybe because no one told them, is that surviving isn't the goal. Thriving is. You ever notice how hard it is to make smart money decisions when you're anxious? That's not random. Your brain literally shuts down long-term thinking when it feels unsafe. And if money always felt like danger to you growing up, then guess what? Even now, as an adult, part of your brain is still bracing for impact. That's why budgeting can feel suffocating. Why investing feels like gambling. Why spending on yourself feels like betrayal. But here's the shift. It's not about being more disciplined. It's about feeling safer. The moment you stop viewing money as a threat and start seeing it as a tool, things begin to change. Think about it. A hammer can build a house or break a window. It's not good or bad. It's just a tool. Same with money. What matters is how you use it, and how you feel about using it. You've probably heard this before, but no one tells you why it matters. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you believe you deserve. And if you've been carrying around guilt, fear, or shame about money, that's shaping every decision, whether you realize it or not. So here's one practical thing you can do right now. Rewrite your internal script. Literally. Take a sheet of paper and write down the top 3 money beliefs you heard growing up. Then next to each one ask, do I still believe this? And is this belief helping me or holding me back? It sounds simple, but it's powerful, because awareness is the first step to freedom. The truth is, no one taught you how to have a healthy relationship with money. Most schools didn't. Most families couldn't. But that doesn't mean you're stuck with what you learned. Reprogramming your money mindset is the first real investment. And guess what? It pays the highest return. So if something's clicking for you right now, lean in. This isn't about shame, it's about liberation. You're allowed to unlearn what no longer serves you, and you're allowed to want more, not out of greed, but out of growth. You're not here to repeat the same. You ever catch yourself thinking, if I just made more money, all my problems would disappear? Sounds logical, right? More income, more freedom, less stress, more peace. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Earning more won't fix what you learned as a kid. It's like putting premium gas in a car with a cracked engine. Sure, it might run for a bit, might even go fast, but eventually it breaks down. Why? Because the real issue wasn't the fuel, it was the foundation. You can double your salary, get a bonus, win the lottery. Doesn't matter. If your subconscious still believes that money is dangerous, shameful, or temporary, you'll find a way to get rid of it. Maybe not intentionally, but you'll overspend, undersave, stay in toxic cycles, or attract chaos, just to stay aligned with your internal set point. We don't like to admit this, but a lot of people are emotionally addicted to struggle, because struggle is familiar. Peace, not so much. Think about it. If you grew up watching your family live check to check, what feels normal to you now? Hustling nonstop, living in scarcity, feeling guilty when things get too good. That becomes your comfort zone even if it's painful. This is why so many high earners are still broke. They make six figures but feel empty, or anxious, or burnt out, because the money came but the mindset never healed. And if your mindset is wired for survival, abundance will always feel unsafe. There's a reason some folks get a raise and immediately increase their expenses, or get a tax refund and blow it in a week. It's not stupidity, it's self-protection. It's their nervous system trying to get back to what feels familiar, which, for many people, is lack. You want to know how deep this goes? There are people who subconsciously avoid making more money because they're afraid it'll change how others see them. Maybe they were taught that wealth makes you selfish, or that being successful means leaving others behind. So instead of expanding, they shrink. Instead of charging what they're worth, they settle. Instead of building wealth, they sabotage it, all to protect an identity that was never theirs to begin with. And listen, I get it. Wanting more money while battling inner guilt is exhausting. It's like trying to run a marathon with a backpack full of bricks, and no one sees it, because on the outside you look fine. But here's the thing. Money doesn't heal what mindset broke. You gotta go deeper. Ask yourself, what do I really believe about money? Not what you say out loud. What you feel in your body when the topic comes up. Do you tense up? Do you avoid the conversation? Do you feel undeserving because that's where the real work starts? Earning more is great, but if you want to keep more, if you want to grow, invest, and build real freedom, you've got to unlearn the emotional reflexes that keep you broke. It's not just about budgeting better. It's about feeling safe with success. It's about knowing, deep down, that money doesn't change who you are. It just amplifies what's already there. And if what's there is peace, clarity, and self-worth, then yeah, more money will finally start to feel like more life, not more stress. You ever feel nervous when things start going well, like you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop? Like maybe it's all too good to be true? That's not paranoia. That's programming. See, when you grow up with financial instability, bills piling up, power getting cut off, watching your parents panic after every unexpected expense, you don't just witness stress, you absorb it. Your body remembers. Your nervous system learns that safety is temporary and success is fragile. So now, even as an adult, when money starts coming in, when you finally start saving or investing, or even just breathing a little easier, your subconscious freaks out. It's like, this isn't normal, this can't last, don't get too comfortable. And so without realizing it, you sabotage, you overspend, you undercharge, you procrastinate, or you create some drama in your life just to match the inner chaos you've always known. It sounds crazy, but for many people, peace feels unsafe. Why? Because as kids, peace wasn't predictable. Struggle was. So now your brain equates calm with danger, like the silence before a storm. And wealth, real, stable wealth, that feels like a setup, like something you're not allowed to have for too long. There's this quiet fear most people never talk about. The fear of having too much and then losing it all. Not because they actually think they'll make bad choices, but because they've never known what it feels like to hold abundance without panic. And if you've never been taught how to feel safe with money, your system will find a way to get rid of it. Fast. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine someone wins the lottery. Overnight, they go from barely surviving to having millions. But in 5 years, they're broke again. Why? Because their bank account changed, but their internal thermostat didn't. They weren't calibrated for wealth, so they returned to what felt familiar. Lack. You might not win the lottery, but you might get a promotion, land a big client, start a business, and suddenly, more income, more possibilities. But if part of you still believes that wealth equals loss, you'll block yourself from holding on to it. You'll make decisions that don't make sense on paper, but make total sense emotionally, because you're not sabotaging success. You're protecting yourself from pain. And the cruel irony? The pain you're avoiding hasn't even happened. You're just reliving an old wound, again and again, every time money enters the picture. So what do? You start by noticing the pattern, the panic, the guilt, the voice that says, "This is too much, I can't handle this." And instead of pushing it down, you sit with it. You ask, where did I first learn this? Because that belief didn't start today. It started way back. Maybe in a small apartment, maybe in a car with a repossession notice, maybe in a kitchen where someone cried quietly while opening bills. Whatever it was, it taught you that money is fleeting. And now your job is to unteach that. Because the truth is, you can feel safe with more. You can expand your capacity to receive and hold abundance. But it starts with recognizing that the fear, it's just a memory dressed up as a warning. You're not cursed, you're just conditioned, and that can be reprogrammed. Nobody ever says, "I'm teaching you to feel shame about money." But somehow it happens anyway. You grow up watching your parents get quiet when the bills come in. You hear the tension in their voices at the grocery store, the awkward silence when someone brings up vacations or new cars. Maybe your mom jokes about being broke just to ease the discomfort. Maybe your dad flips out over a $10 mistake, because deep down, he's terrified of losing control. No one tells you what's really going on, but as a kid, you learn fast. Money is emotional territory, and the number one emotion, shame. You start picking up the rules without anyone having to say them out loud. Don't ask for too much. Don't talk about what you have. Don't spend on yourself unless it's justified. And whatever you do, don't let anyone think you're struggling. It's like a script that gets passed down generation after generation, but no one ever questions who wrote it. So now, as an adult, you're still living by those same silent rules. You feel guilty buying something nice even when you can afford it. You downplay your success because you don't want to make others uncomfortable. You stress over every financial decision, not because it's risky, but because you're terrified of making the wrong move and being judged for it. Shame is sneaky like that. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It hides behind phrases like, "I should know better," or "I'm just not good with money." But what you're really saying is, "I feel like I'm not enough." And let's be real. This didn't start with you. If your parents avoided talking about money, it's probably because their parents did too. If they felt guilt or fear around finances, it's because they were taught to feel that way. These patterns didn't just appear, they were inherited. Not genetically, emotionally. Think about it like a family recipe. Except instead of passing down grandma's lasagna, they pass down anxiety, guilt, silence. And just like a recipe, you don't even think to question the ingredients. You just follow the instructions. But what if you stopped? What if you said, "This doesn't taste right to me anymore"? You don't have to carry shame that doesn't belong to you. Just because they never felt safe talking about money doesn't mean you have to stay silent. Just because they felt guilty spending on themselves doesn't mean you need to suffer every time you want something better. The truth is, most of us weren't taught how to have a healthy relationship with money. We were taught how to hide it, fear it, or obsess over it. But healing doesn't come from hiding. Healing comes from awareness, from honesty, from compassion. And maybe, just maybe, it starts with being the first in your family to say, "I want something different." You're not selfish for wanting financial peace. You're not greedy for desiring more. You're just breaking the silence that was never meant to be kept. There comes a point in your journey where you realize something heavy, but freeing. You're the adult now, and that means it's your turn to give yourself what you never got, especially when it comes to money. This is what people mean when they talk about reparenting, becoming the version of support, safety, and guidance you needed back when you were still learning what the world was. Back when you were being shaped by silence, by fear, by stress, and no one was there to explain what was happening. See, most of us didn't get a healthy money education. Not in school, not at home. We learned through tension, through panic, through watching the adults in our lives spiral every time an unexpected bill showed up, or feeling the weight of it all in the quiet moments. Like when you asked for something simple and got that look, that sigh, that "not today." And now, decades later, your inner child is still stuck in that moment, still bracing for disappointment, still waiting for the other shoe to drop. But here's the shift. You're not that powerless kid anymore. You have choices now. You have tools. You have awareness. And most importantly, you have the opportunity to reprogram the whole system. Reparenting. Your financial mindset doesn't mean pretending the past didn't happen. It means recognizing that you were shaped by experiences you didn't choose, and then choosing something different, on purpose, now. It means catching that inner voice that says, "You don't deserve that," or "You'll mess this up," and answering it like you'd talk to a child, with patience, not punishment. It means replacing shame with curiosity, guilt with grace. Let's be honest, you probably already know what you should be doing with money. Save more, spend less, invest. But if it were just about logic, you wouldn't be stuck. This is about emotional safety. It's about creating an internal environment where financial growth doesn't feel like danger. It feels like dignity. So when you set a budget, don't do it like a drill sergeant. Do it like a mentor who wants the best for you. When you spend on yourself, don't spiral into guilt. Remind yourself, "I'm worth this." When fear kicks in before an investment, breathe through it. Say, "It's safe for me to expand." That's reparenting, and it's powerful. You're not fixing yourself. You're rebuilding trust with yourself. You're telling that inner, scared version of you, the one who watched everything fall apart, the one who thought money was only for other people, that things are different now, that you've got them, that you're here, that you're safe to grow. And let's be real, this isn't a one-time thing, it's a practice like building a muscle. But every time you choose awareness over autopilot, every time you choose compassion over criticism, you break a little more of that old cycle. You don't owe your past the rest of your life. You owe your future something better. You ever feel like no matter how hard you work, you're just running in place? Like you're doing everything right, saving, budgeting, cutting back, but somehow you're still stuck? That's not a money problem. That's a scarcity loop. It's this invisible cycle where you keep making decisions from a place of lack. You think small, play safe, avoid risk, and constantly prepare for the worst. And over time, it starts to feel normal, like the only way to live. But what if that loop isn't your fault? What if you were programmed for survival, and now it's time to learn how to thrive? See, most people don't realize they're in scarcity because it doesn't always look like poverty. It can look like being terrified to invest in yourself, like obsessing over every dollar, like staying in a job you hate because at least it's stable, or never asking for a raise because you're scared they'll say no, or worse, think you're ungrateful. Scarcity isn't just financial. It's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual, and it clouds your vision. When you're in that loop, your brain focuses on problems, not possibilities. You see only what could go wrong, not what could go right. You believe success is for them, not for you. You settle because you don't believe you're allowed to stretch. But here's what no one tells you. Abundance is also a loop. Once you start thinking from expansion, not fear, your decisions change. You don't panic when a bill comes in. You don't say no to opportunity just because it's unfamiliar. You don't shrink your dreams to fit your old identity. You grow into a new one. And this shift doesn't require winning the lottery or landing a six-figure job. It starts way smaller than that. It starts with your thoughts, your choices, your words. Every time you tell yourself, "I can figure this out," instead of "I'll never get ahead," you're rewiring the loop. Every time you make a decision, based on where you want to be, not just where you are, you're planting seeds in fertile ground. That's how you start moving from survival to strategy, from fear to flow. So ask yourself, are you budgeting from panic or from purpose? Are you saying no to growth because you're broke, or because you've convinced yourself that staying small is safer? This isn't about reckless spending or fake positivity. It's about alignment, about choosing actions that reflect who you're becoming, not just who you've been. Because here's the truth, the version of you who's thriving financially, who feels confident, calm, and in control, that version already exists inside you. You just haven't let them lead yet. You've let fear run the show long enough. You've let doubt make your decisions. It's time to make a different choice. Next time you hesitate to invest in your growth, pause. Ask, what would the abundant version of me do? Not the scared one. Not the one stuck in old patterns, but the one who knows they're worthy of more. Because that version, they're not coming. They're already here, waiting for you to believe it. You didn't choose your programming, but now, you get to choose whether you keep it. That's the moment everything starts to shift. Not when your income doubles or your debt disappears, but when you realize you've been living someone else's story this whole time. A story written by fear, by struggle, by survival, and for the first time, you're questioning it. That takes courage, because it's easier to stay stuck. Easier to keep telling yourself, "That's just how I am," or "I was never good with money." Easier to play small than to admit you've outgrown your own beliefs. But here's the truth. Your past may explain you, but it doesn't define you. You are not the 7-year-old who heard, "We can't afford that." You are not the teenager who had to pretend everything was fine when it wasn't. You are not the adult who made a few money mistakes and decided that meant you were doomed. You are someone who survived things you were never prepared for. And now you're building things no one ever taught you were possible. That's powerful. But the journey doesn't end with awareness. Awareness is the beginning. The real work? It's in the day-to-day rewiring. In how you speak to yourself when you check your bank balance, in how you show up for that scary financial conversation, in how you choose, again and again, to respond from clarity, not from panic. You've probably heard this 100 times. Money doesn't buy happiness. And yeah, that's true. But you know what else is true? Chronic stress about money destroys happiness. It chips away at your confidence. It limits your choices. It steals your peace. So don't let anyone shame you for wanting more. More ease, more security, more agency. Wanting more isn't selfish, it's human. Especially when you want more because you know how hard less can be. And maybe right now you're not where you want to be. That's okay. Progress isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it looks like saying no when you used to say yes. Sometimes it's just catching yourself in the middle of an old pattern and pausing. That pause, that's where the rewrite begins. So if any part of this hit you, if you felt seen even for a second, maybe it's time to unlearn a few things, not because you've been doing it wrong, but because you're finally ready to do it different. And I'll be right here, helping you shift that mindset, one thought at a time. Because wealth, real wealth, it's a mindset before it's a bank statement.